Good afternoon and welcome to a very special interview show of The Prode. India and Norway established official diplomatic relations in the year 1947, and both the countries have been enjoying a cordial and friendly relationship. The two countries respect each other for their commonly shared values such as democracy, human rights, and rule of law. In recent years, both the countries have been increasingly tapping their bilateral economic and technical complementarities. India-Norway bilateral ties are marked by regular exchanges of high-level visits between the two countries. Joining me today to talk about India-Norway bilateral relations is the Deputy Head of Mission of Norwegian Embassy in India and Minister-Counsellor, Ms. Martine Bottheim. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Ritwij.
So India and Norway established official diplomatic relations in the year 1947. So ma'am, how has been the diplomatic relations of both the countries till date to start with?
So Norway was actually one of the first countries to recognize India upon independence in 1947. And India and Norway established official diplomatic relations that year. But ties between Norway and India have deep historical roots. And since the visit by then Prime Minister Solberg in 2019, the relationship has been strengthening. The Norwegian government has a unique strategy for cooperation with India. We call it Norway-India 2030. The strategy gives us a solid platform and a clear direction for the further development of our collaboration with India. The strategy springs out of Norway's national and international interests and our comparative advantages within the areas of priority to India. And these four are: 1, democracy and a rules-based international world order; 2nd, the oceans; 3rd, climate and the environment; and 4th, other important areas such as higher education and global health. And just since I arrived in India in January this year, I have really seen firsthand how the ties are increasingly being strengthened. One of the Norwegian foreign minister's first visits abroad actually went to India in April this year. And she came to attend India's annual geopolitical conference, the Raisina Dialogue, and she had bilateral meetings with your foreign minister, Dr. Ritwij Shandilya. And the minister also brought with her 17 Norwegian energy companies. And together with them, she met with the Minister of Energy and Renewable Energy, Ritwij Shandilya, and also the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Shri Hardip Singh Puri. And she put then forward the solutions that these Norwegian companies bring to support the green energy transition in India. And during her visit, 8 agreements between Norwegian and Indian businesses were signed within the field of hydrogen, fuel cells, carbon capture, and storage. And then Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Støre also met last month during the India-Nordic Summit in Copenhagen. And the Prime Ministers discussed cooperation in areas such as ocean management, climate action, and renewable energy. And they agreed to establish a joint task force on energy. Prime Minister Modi expressed a strong interest in Norwegian services, products, and investments. And the ministers pledged to continue to deepen the cooperation between the Nordic countries and India.
Yeah, okay. So what are some of the major sectors in which India and Norway have bilateral partnerships, and how successful these partnerships been in terms of economic developments of both the countries?
Yes, so one such sector is the blue economy. The blue economy has enormous potential when we develop it sustainably. And Norway-India cooperation contributes to creating economic growth and jobs while protecting the marine environment and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And a task force on blue economy for sustainable development was constituted after the initiative from Prime Minister Modi to support growth in the blue economy as the 6th dimension of his vision of New India. The task force actually met for the 5th time last week, and the meeting took stock of results on improved ocean space management, reduced plastic pollution, and emissions cut from shipping and from ports. And the meeting also explored how Norway and India can enhance cooperation on deep ocean technology, fisheries, aquaculture, and ocean-based renewable energy. And that same week, actually, Cochin Shipyard announced the delivery of 2 autonomous electric vessels to the Norwegian company Asko Maritime, a great example of a successful partnership between Norway and Indian businesses within the blue economy. And another sector that is growing is within energy. Prime Minister Modi's announcement of enhanced climate goals has made India an attractive destination for green investments and business cooperation within the energy sector. And we see that Norwegian companies are increasingly looking to India as a market and for partnership with Indian companies. And these partnerships are not only contributing to the energy transition in our 2 countries, but also using India as a platform for scaling solutions that benefit everyone. And as I mentioned, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Støre have agreed to set up a bilateral task force on energy. And we are currently working with our Indian colleagues to design exactly how this task force is going to look and to launch this very soon.
Okay, now coming to the trade relations. So how the trade relations of both the countries been so far?
Yes, so trade relations between India and Norway are also growing. We see that the numbers doubled from 2020 to 2021, and 2022 is also looking promising. At the same time, we also see an increase in economic ties between the 2 countries. Big Norwegian companies like Yara, Jotun, and Orkla have large production facilities in India, and a high level of qualified workers have come to Norway from India the last years. And Indians are actually the largest group of skilled workers in Norway after the EU. And also Norwegian tech companies like Aker, Kværner, and Kongsberg have established themselves with large departments in India. And we see that the Norwegian technology industry is depending on the access of skilled workers from India. And in terms of investments, the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund has already invested about $17 billion in India across all sectors. And the Norwegian government's development finance institution, Norfund, has already invested over $140 million for renewable energy solutions in India. And in addition to that, the newly established Climate Investment Trust Fund, which will be capitalized with 2 billion Norwegian kroner each year for the next 5 years, is looking at India as one of its main markets. So investments are also growing.
Yeah. Okay, so how has been the cultural and educational ties of both the nations, and how can India and Norway partner in order to increase the exchange of students between the countries for higher education from both the sides?
Yes, that's a very good question. We really do appreciate the long-standing cultural cooperation between our 2 countries. And cultural cooperation is a valuable platform for dialogue and understanding. And cooperation in the areas of art, culture, and sport can help promote common values such as democracy, freedom of expression, and sustainability. We are working from the embassy's part actively in the field of literature here in India. And there is an increased interest from the Indian side in the fields of music, film shootings in Norway, and performing arts. And for example, since 2014, the embassy has been an active partner at the Jaipur Literature Festival, where famous Norwegian authors have been invited to speak. And these include Roy Jacobsen, Maja Lunde, Åsne Seierstad, and Hanne Ørstavik. And in general, we see that Norwegian authors have a good audience in India. Indians are reading people. And Jo Nesbø is translated into several Indian languages, and also several Norwegian children books, such as When the Robbers Came to Cardamombe Town, are published into Hindi. And we are increasingly looking at India as an export market for Norwegian art and Norwegian culture.
Yeah. So now coming to the science and technology. So how the bilateral partnerships of Norway and India been in the field of science technology as well as research and development, and what is the way forward for both the countries in these domains? Like we talked about green energy, now coming to science and tech. So how has been the partnership in science and tech?
Exactly. So here too, we see India as an important strategic partner. And this is also clearly stipulated in the government's India strategy that higher education and research are one of the fields that we should work closely together. An existing MOU, Memorandum of Understanding for Higher Education, was renewed by the Foreign Minister when she was here in April this year, and that really shows that the promotion of collaboration and exchange within higher education is a priority. And here at the Embassy in New Delhi, we do have a dedicated counselor for science, technology, and higher education. Also, from Norway, the Norwegian Research Council has an extensive set of programs in India, and India is actually the largest partner in this council outside of Europe. The government also has a strategy for cooperation on higher education and research called the Panorama Strategy. And in this strategy, India is one of the 9 priority countries. And the main target in the strategy is to increase interaction between education, research, and innovation, and to increase student mobility, both outgoing and incoming. And we see that the joint research has resulted not only in close relationships between Norwegian and Indian institutions, but also led to a significant number of scientific publications. Cooperation in higher education, research and innovation opens doors for Norwegian businesses when it comes to the knowledge environment in India, and business cooperation at the same time also provides access and opportunity for our education and research environments.
So I would like to conclude the discussion by asking that, are there any challenges that are affecting the bilateral relations between both the countries? If yes, then how can both the countries work together in order to counter those challenges? And what is the way forward for both the nations?
So we saw that the COVID pandemic was a big challenge for both our countries. And the restrictions that were imposed, they slowed down many of the interactions. Now that we see that the pandemic is less of an issue, and most restrictions have been lifted, and we now have a mutual recognition of COVID certificates in place, I foresee an increase in interactions and an increase in the strengthening of our bilateral relations. And I see an interest in this both from the Norwegian and from the Indian government. And with the mutual appreciation and understanding of each other, both countries are ready and willing to help grow this relationship further. And to end by a quote, the Indian Foreign Minister Ritwij Shandilya has stated that our cooperation is green, clean, and human-centric. And that's a very good thing in these days, I think.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. Really hope that India and Norway will keep flourishing their relationship. On this note, I want to end this interview. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.